Welcome, every single one of you. If you haven't muted yourselves, you may want to do that now. And I am just so delighted that you are choosing to spend this time with us. I imagine that there's 1,000 other things and other places you could be, and you chose this one. And none of us are taking that for granted. Here at UU, and those of you who don't know what UU means, it's Unitarian Universalist
This person.
Church here.
I know her. She looks very
Tonya,
different.
would you like to mute yourself? Or
Looks
Deborah,
very
can you mute
different from
Tonya?
when I saw her last, which was quite a long time ago.
Okay.
Are you able to do that, Tonya?
Yeah.
Deborah?
Mhm.
Okay. So here at our Unitarian Universalist Church, we live from the heart. We are an inclusive, compassionate community. Our goal is for personal growth, for social transformation, is for healing and justice for all. And we offer inspiring programs like this one here tonight. And because we believe that when we come together and when we work together on ourselves, we can do more out in the world as well. We also want you to know that we can bring to you programs like this because of your generous donations. So we are grateful for whatever you can afford. And later, we will share a link so you can mail a check, you can donate online. There's many ways to donate, and we're grateful for it. Because of it, we are able to bring programs like this to you. Also, we really want to know how you found us, and would like to get to know you a little bit better. So if you want to drop in the chat a note, we welcome that as well. I am Reverend G. I am the minister at our church, and Martha is our special guest. I have been in more or less full-time ministry for the last, 16 years or so. And I contribute my longevity to a great deal to Martha's mentorship. If I am ever in a tight spot that I can't find my way out, I don't even think about it. I just dial Martha. And she's helped me out so many times. Martha is highly accomplished. She has many, many degrees, PhDs, and all kinds of other certificates. And I am sure that all of that knowledge that she's acquired through all those programs contributed to who she is. But I really think that there is something really special about Martha that if it wasn't for all the degrees, that would still be there. And that's the reason that so many of us have joined in from all over the country, as well as from Canada. We're international tonight. Because Martha has touched us. And if you have not yet experienced Martha, you will tonight. And you cannot describe who Martha is until you experience her. I can tell you that she's smart. I can tell you that she's deep. I can tell you that she has wisdom beyond her age, that she's funny. Like her sense of humor is funny. She's funny.
Okay, let's get on to her then.
But she's coming. But that special sauce. So Martha, we are so grateful that you are here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. And last time you joined us was last year, the day after the election. And you were a unintended host or an unintended guest. You were supposed to be the host, and you ended up being the guest. And we were all very touched, and what you did with us, the work you did with us then, was much needed, because it was the aftermath of the election, and we were all broken and raw and scared and hopeless. And so here we are again, almost a year later, and you're joining us again. And I want to talk to you about personal growth. I want to talk to you about the going within. So when we go without, that shows. And I also want to talk to you almost a year later. We had fears then, and where we are today, and then how to be today, because so many of those fears have indeed materialized. Some are worse than we could have imagined, and the end is not in sight. So it's very, very scary. There is a Hungarian saying that you can't just feed a horse under the mountain, because a horse has to have a lot of strength to carry you up the mountain. So if you just start feeding the horse when you're under the mountain, hoping that it'll get you up there, the horse may not be able to do it. So it's very important to feed the horse long before you get to the mountain. We're definitely at an uphill time in humanity's history, I believe. So tell us about how do you feed yourself, and where do you feed yourself from? Where's your resource from?
Well, it's myriad, honey, including things like tonight. My greatest source of my own uplift and hope and patience and courage and connection and calmness comes from me being in service, from me being some earthly good and doing what I can in challenging times and in fearful times, scared times. So I've been given God-given gifts. Y'all have all been given God-given gifts. And I am better off. I am calmer, more courageous, and more collaborative, more daring when I am living in service to do what I can do here on the earth. And you're right about it, honey. There's no shortage of challenges, personal, communal, global. And I've had my own boot camp, so to speak, that no reason to get into here in the last few months, including 2 car accidents. One was totaled, another one last night, a tear in my retina, fluid around my optic nerve, and deaths and surprises in the family, and a knee that will not work on my command. That requires some injections now pretty regularly. In addition to what's going on in the world, what's going on with people, what's going on with change, and the fear that's there, and the inertia of there, that what we witness if we listen to this and get or don't stop absorbing what's there. So I am fed by making conscious choices about what I will listen to, what I will participate in, what I will let come into my being or my purview or my day. And I am fed by reading, by mantra, by writing, by forgiveness, by doing purification work. I just came off of an intensive weekend over in Cincinnati, facilitating 40 people in a journey within process that I've done for 20 some years to keep us to feed the horse, so to speak. And we're not waiting for it to come loose. We're not waiting for it to hit the fan. That I'm conscious in the fact that this is not a destination. Nobody just arrives to a place where we can do all these things or to do it well or at a high functioning all the time, and that it requires us to continue to do this day in and day out, 70 times 7, 70 times 7 forgiveness, 70 times 7 acceptance, radical acceptance of what I cannot change, and to know that it's a direction to go in, not a destination. It is not a place that I've arrived or will ever arrive or believe about arrival. So the list is long about how I do it. But my mission to be alive, as far as I know, most of you have heard it, is to serve those who serve. And that's what I'm doing here tonight, based on your invitation for me to be here. So I'm alive to serve those who serve and to bolster up equipped and equipping courageous leaders, extraordinary leaders. And thank you for your affirmation, honey, and your grace that you extended, that part of your longevity in ministry is a result of some of this, of my serving those who serve. And it's not it's not to be just brushed over. That, like in your case, there's 5 or 6 other ministers here that we could say the same thing about. Because in ministry, for example, most clergy that come through a seminary, many now don't even ever make it into a pulpit. They don't go to serve a community. They're in alternative ministries, or they took a seminary path, for example, for the experience of it, not to actually go out and serve a congregation or a community. Those that take a pulpit, that are called in there, the majority don't make it 5 years. So it's no little thing that you have been able, you or any of the others here, me, have been able to hang in here like a hair in a biscuit and stay the course, uncommonly motivated, uncommon stamina that comes from somewhere beyond us, to stay the course on this and to continue working, hopefully, faithfully, patiently, imaginatively, willfully, lovingly, and strongly, and as peacefully as we can, especially in challenging times. And you know from your traditions there in the Unitarian Universalist that we're bound together, that we're bound as a humanity by a covenant of love and respect, and not necessarily a uniformity of belief. And albeit still a covenant of love and respect. And our shared principles call us to live this interaction to interaction, person to person, personality to personality, knucklehead to knucklehead, and to do so with as much dignity as we can muster, and to seek the truth and to hold a compassionate center at the heart of us, including a compassion to ourselves, our own fears, and then to walk through challenge by challenge the best way we can. And I also draw on the wisdom of those before us, folks that said that hope, hope has been able to see that there's light despite the darkness. Desmond Tutu is my favorite quote from him. It's been able to see that there is light. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, says, look for the helpers, look for the helpers in this sea of knuckleheads. Look for the helpers, go toward the helpers. And although then the world, not to deny that there's suffering, and heaps of it, and growing amounts of suffering, and illnesses and mental illnesses, and who knows to what extreme yet, but it's still not known, I think, to us consciously, just how severe it is. We are also capable of overcoming. We're capable of resilience. We're capable of grit. We're capable of innovation, of resourcing, and cultivating it. And I think that's what we're doing here today, to build hope and to look at the will that we have and the value of that will, and to know that will is not enough, that I've got to have the will and a skill. I've got to have will and build my skills on how to be with this. So there's all the reasons in the world to stay a student, and I'm here tonight as a student.
You mentioned, Martha, that standing in your truth, and that you seek truth. And what I am noticing in this world anymore is that truth is being attacked all the time and undermined. And it's truth. It's probably true that truth was always very hard to find. But today there's a deliberate attack, and it's a campaign of confusion, which then breeds cynicism and skepticism. So where do you go for truth?
Well, I question everything. So first of all, I don't believe there is such a thing. That what is truth for me is only what is true for me. And I can't sanely or sensibly or integrally determine what is truth, claim to know the truth, and then displace my claim to truth out on somebody else. And to the degree that I do that, it's clear that there's no recipients for this. They've already got their own primarily closed mindset about what truth is. So then I get more stressed, more irritated, more frustrated, more apathetic, more resigned, more pitiful, more angry, more blaming, whatever I get if I buy into that there is a truth and I know the truth and it's my truth is the truth, versus continuing to question what I actually believe. Where did I get that? And what right do I have? None. To displace my claim to truth off onto somebody else. And if I don't operate within myself to say whatever I determine to be the truth is only for me, and it's only for me to live it out. It's only for me to live it out. So if somebody called me and said, Reverend G is so out of integrity, my response would be, you don't know a thing about Reverend G's integrity. Her integrity is hers. Her integrity is her accountability and her responsibility. And she may never, ever assume accountability for even her roles and responsibilities. But my definition of integrity is for my own way of being. So whatever I think is an integrity is for mine to live out, mine to do. And I don't get to put it off on somebody else. And to the degree I do, I get more bitter and hateful and cynical. And now I've just added violence in a world that I claim I want more peace in. So the very thing I want to see end, I am perpetuating, and primarily unconsciously.
Well, that is a real mind screw, to think that our best intentions then can perpetuate the very thing that we don't want to see in the world.
Well, just back up from it and look, honey, how do you react when you think you know the truth and you're handing out the truth to others and there's no recipient? When they not only say hell to the no, but they do the opposite, a polarized opposite. How do you react to all that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see it. Obviously, I see it. How that's precisely what I put into the world then. And of course, still, there is an internal guidance that we have within. For instance, there's, and that's just it, Martha, that life doesn't stop just because, fascism is done knocking at our doors. The door is open and it's pouring in. So that is happening, and then the personal issues don't stop. There's your retina, does what your retina wants to do without you getting to vote on it. How does one balance all of this? How does one stay sane? How does one stay motivated not to give up and give in, but find the inspiration to do what one can?
Yeah. Well, again, honey, it's a myriad of ways. Like I went to a musical a presentation with a man in a Unity church here near Nashville a week or so ago. Never heard of the man, but I was very clearly guided to go. I was invited. I was a guest of theirs. And the lyrics of that man inspired me. The lyrics of that man reminded me of what is true for me, and lyrics along the lines of, don't waste another day. Don't waste another day trying to control what you can't control. Don't waste another breath on somebody with a closed, stuck mindset and standing there beating our head up against a brick wall, wondering why our head is bleeding, and then blaming them that my head is bleeding. And psychology has proven this, science has proven this, and others that were guests here last night also had some data that I haven't had, but I've presented on this many times with the difference of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And according to the data, the psychological data, 80% of the population, the human species, 80% is in a fixed mindset, which the word we typically use for that is closed mindset. So that leaves more accountability and more responsibility on any of us that have more of a growth mindset that says, I can question what I believe. I can look to see where I got that, what is true. Is it actually my conviction, or is it something that's been handed down to me through the inertia of culture, history, or whatever, or the family, the bones and blood of our family, without ever questioning, is this actual for me? Is this true for me? Is this what I'm convicted in? Or am I going along with how it's always been, something that's been handed down? And I'm intent on questioning what I believe and seeing what the difference of it is. And in every case, many of you know the story about my dad. That I used to, if you'd have said, if you're compassionate, Martha, on a scale of 10, how compassionate are you? I'd have said 8. Like, I work at being compassionate. It's a value of mine. It's a standard of my integrity. And I'm serving my dad. He's in a hospital. He's in his last few months, and metastatic cancer, collapsed lungs, and all kinds of things going on. And I was somebody that I love as much as I've ever loved a human being. And I would say, Daddy, do you want some water? And he would say, no. And then I'd get the water and say, well, here, just drink some. Go ahead and drink some water. Just drink it down to here. You got to be sure you stay hydrated. And I was doing that in the name of compassion, in the name of helping, in the name of keeping him alive. And it was not respectful when he just said to me, I'm not thirsty. Then I would say, do you want to go for a walk? No. Then I'd say, well, okay, let's go ahead and get up. Put your arms around my neck, swing your feet out, and let me get you up out of this bed. Like I didn't hear a word he said. In the name of helping, in the name of Saint Martha. And then eventually in my own devoted spiritual practice to question everything, it included, is this actually compassion? Is this actually compassionate action? Is that true? And it's like, no, it's not. It's not. And how do I react when I think that's compassionate action and he's not taking accountability, ain't going to stay hydrated, may get a pneumonia, which they said very clearly will be fatal if he does. And I'm taking responsibility for his life instead of like, I don't have that power. I don't have that power. And if I had power for him to be alive, then I'd have power for him not to have illness. And I'd have a lot of power that I delusionally think I have that I don't have. And then it shifted. So then I would say, Daddy, do you want some water? No. And I'd be like, okay, it's right here. And if you want it, I'll hand it over to you. And did you hear the part about the hydration? And that if you get a pneumonia, it could be fatal. Did you hear all that? Yes, I sure did. I'm like, great. Then he was out of the blue, then would say, honey, is there any water in that pitcher? I want some, I want to drink. I'd be like, it's the damnedest thing. All these years, my dad could detect thirst. and I was the last to know. And then there's been transformations in that where I disagreed with people in the family, and including my mother, and strict religious beliefs that I didn't believe, that she believes in hell and going to hell, and it's an afterworld, and that it's real. And one day in the car leaving her church, which I took her to just basically see people that she loved and wanted to, and she asked me out loud, and we've never had a conversation like this about what we actually believe. And I'm an accommodator, I'm a people pleasing fool, and don't stir the pot and all that. And I'm also committed to telling the truth, my truth, being honest. And by that I mean honesty, not the truth, but honest, authentic responses. And she said, "Do you believe what that preacher says?" And I said, "What part?" And she said, "Don't start that questioning with me. Do you believe what the preacher says or not?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't trying to be clever. I was trying to seek clarity on what you meant. So I can't respond, but I can respond generally, but not specifically to what you may be meaning. So if you're asking me, do I believe in hell as a place people go when they die and they spend an eternity there, the answer is no. I don't believe that." And then I waited for her rage. I waited for her to die at the news of this and was willing for it. And she got very quiet and she said, "Is that so? Like you don't actually believe that?" And I said, "I don't." And I said, "I don't mind that you believe it though. I don't mind that they believe it. I'm not here to tell other people how to believe. I'm not here to put my beliefs off onto other people. So I believe this. Y'all are welcome to believe that. You're welcome to believe that. I just don't." And then she started crying. And she said, "Well, wait a minute. Because if you're right, then Joe, which is my father, and Randy, my brother, her baby, if you're right, they're okay. Their souls are okay. If you're right." And I said, "Yeah, if I'm right, they're okay. Also, if I'm right, we're all okay. And I don't demand that other people believe the way I believe. And it's a full-time job for me to question what I believe. And it's pretty easy to espouse this and espouse that and wear a flag of this and wear a flag of that. And what I got in touch this week with is this holy anger. This holy anger. And like that holy anger is going to change something. And it's like that holy anger causes me not to function sanely. The holy anger causes me to show up and present as indignant and righteous and not what I want to show up as, and certainly not what our tenets of compassion and a circle of care and trust and courage and imagination and working toward peace and equanimity and justice and inherent worth and dignity of all people and all that. I can't stand up and claim to believe that and then do something else. It's not an integrity for me.
I am not entirely sure how to put this in words. If sometimes I think if I had perfect and complete sanity, and if I could always see just the world for what it is, I would be okay. So working on self is very important. Knowing one's thoughts, one's responsibilities, really, like what is mine and what isn't. Because when I try to affect that which is not mine, that's when I get crazier and crazier and crazier. So working on self and understanding these two differences is just so important for a grounded and sane life. So how do you then live in community when you are still being impacted, though, by others who may not have the same commitment of working on themselves, who may not completely understand, who I've worked so long on myself, and I've accomplished what I've accomplished, whether it's much or little, it doesn't matter. My parents will never, ever, ever see me for who I am. It's just not going to happen. If it happens, it will be one of the biggest miracles that I will have experienced. And so that impacts me, though. I notice that it gets me. It gets to me, still gets to me. And so do other things in the world still get to me. So sometimes I have the sanity, and then things get to me. And how does one live in community, and how does one create community that is sane and kind and loving, and like we say, that we are inclusive and we're compassionate, and then we're not.
That's it, honey. It's not, it's the infinity of that. It's both and that. Like I get close to people, like, oh, I just could eat them up. They're just yummy, yummy, yummy. And then it's like, get away, need space, can't bear you. So that's these opposing internal forces. And we want to be in community. We want to join with people and all of that. And then we can't bear it at some point. We've got to have space, and we've got to have autonomy and independence as well. So, and it's bearing the burden of both of that we both need. We are both dependent and independent, or interdependent. We're both tolerant and open and inclusive at times, and we're not at times. And that sometimes has been a very solid foundation for me, and particularly in doing the work. That it's sometimes people are barbaric. At times people are strangely, radically compassionate and giving, and would give their life for another. And at times they will take the life of another. And it is both and. And our delusion that there is only this, what we named good, and we get more addicted to that and more demanding of that and more willful of that, and then more affronted, more afraid, and more two thumbs down to the other, then we're absolutely impotent in making any change to say that it's got to be a way, not the whole of the humanity has got to have some, not accepting it, meaning that I won't work for change, that I won't take all the effect I can, that I'll have all the impact I can, and I cannot make a bean plant grow by pulling on it. So I cannot cause conscious evolution, other than if quantum theory is true, I can affect conscious evolution by consciously evolving me, by growing myself, developing skills in me, and deepening the ways of being that I am in the world. And it's a full-time job, and it brings me a great, great deal of peace to know that I can be better in community. I can be better with people that disagree, better with my family who blatantly disagree with most of what I believe, better with people that of opposing views, opposing perspectives, if I stay more self-differentiated and clearer about who I am, what I stand for, and how I'm going to be regardless of how they be. And at times I can do it, and times I can't. And I get frustrated and irritated and grieved and deep sadness and loss. And then I know I have to pause and tend to that part of myself, the human part of me. And I spent 20 some years disowning that part, suppressing sadness, suppressing anger, suppressing everything that wasn't pleasant and that wasn't good and that wasn't positive. Suppress, depress, disown, deny. So I've had a lot of amends to make to myself and to the parts of me that were disowned as a result of me trying to take a high road and pretending and faking that I believed things I didn't and that I didn't feel what I was feeling. So
So
I've
what
got,
gave? Why the change?
well, I couldn't do it anymore, honey. It was so out of alignment with me, I couldn't keep it up. And because I also am work toward authenticity and honesty, and I wasn't being that, and that creates a lot of stress and a lot of disconnect to my spirit, and an absolute usurp of power. Like I'm powerless. I don't have a high functioning when that part of my brain is running. I'm more animalistic, more knee jerkish, and I don't I don't want to live a life like that, and I cannot do it true to myself. So I have to do things that cause me to practice kind of staying above the line. And this still goes here. That little part of the brain takes over, and just like that, and to notice when it does and to say, I've got to build a pause in there so I can't go any further. I can't fire off that email. I can't give them a piece of my mind or tell them the truth or anything else until I restore myself and access the bigger part of my brain that can stay curious, resourceful, thoughtful, imaginative, look for a solution, what could be a middle ground here, things like that. And over time and with practice, it's more apt to go up, stay above the line, so to speak, than to go down here in these regressive ways. And it comes over though decades and decades and decades of spiritual practice. Paul had his hand up, honey. Do you want to check in with him?
Oh yeah, sure, Paul.
Martha, I wanted to ask you if it was a gradual thing or something cathartic happened because you were talking about your father and about your intention for, taking care of him and you were doing it right and you weren't listening to him and what you were talking about when you finally did that, when there was a break, there was something, okay, I'm not getting it. I'm not listening. Was that gradual, or did something happen in your life that you went, one of those aha moments?
Well, that was an aha moment, honey. But it also, those aha moments, I think, Paul, are possible because of the devotion that I have spent questioning my thoughts and doing inquiry and reflective thinking and critical thinking and other things prior to that. So
Got it.
I don't believe that thing, and it's not true. I mean, even I say it now. Other people have said what there was giving me somebody last night shared an example of somebody went into an environment years ago to be a heckler to a minister, went in to like heckle the minister, and was so touched by what the minister said they had a conversion, a conversion of their spirit. So it's possible. And for me, it's been more gradual and it's been like what would be described as a tipping point or the butterfly effect or a hundredth monkey or something like that, where we've thought about it, worked about it, really questioned, and I still do. So because I've got to be careful now that I think, oh, because I had that breakthrough with my daddy, I know what compassion is. It's like, no, I don't yet know what compassion is. I know what compassion wasn't. And I'm clearer now about how broad compassion is. And I still don't know what compassion is. I still
Yeah.
don't know. I'm still unfolding. I'm still
Yeah.
emerging myself. So I can't claim to know anything about a concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're here, honey.
I have just one more question for you, and then after that, I'm gonna just open it up, and please, everybody, just chime in as you are inspired to. And that's just it, Martha. I just love your honesty. Like how just because once you tapped into your compassion, now it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you are the enlightened one who is always in that mindset or that heart set or um, Viktor Frankl, of course, who ended up in a concentration camp. And there he realized I cannot at all control my circumstances. There is still one vestige that I control. There's one thing that I still control in this world, and that's who I am.
Sometimes, honey, sometimes.
So, but that's the only thing that I can still change at this point.
Yeah.
So he had that clarity that sometimes he can, but if he can, that's the only thing really he can. And one would argue that that's true concentration camp or no concentration camp. And many of you do not know this, but I was born in Transylvania, Romania. I'm Hungarian. It's neither here nor there, but it was communism and I grew up in communism, and it ended when I was 19 years old, when I turned 19. And so I lived in an authoritarian regime. I know what it's like to live in an authoritarian regime. And I think that, I don't know that it's true, but I think, and it was true for me then too, that I was hardwired for freedom. And an authoritarian regime is hardwired for feardom, which is very, very different. So the desire of the individual and the desire of the regime. And I am just so sad that my life seems to be bookmarked by authoritarian regimes, and this one is not as solid yet as the one. Although, if you really think about it, that wasn't nearly as solid either because it ended.
Yeah.
So this will end too. I have no doubt about that. Here's hoping that in my lifetime. Yeah. So there is that struggle that I want freedom, and I understand that, of course, it's at the point of me, and that's the only one that I can really impact. And yet there's this yearning to also affect the without. I want the freedom from within to be in the without as well. So
Absolutely, honey. But I mean, thank you for your heartfelt expression of that, G, because we have got there's in this work that I'm in now, this IFS work that I lead and apply to my own life, speaks about legacy burdens. So you cannot help what's in your bones and blood, your direct experience of a lived, actual direct experience of authoritarian communist living. That's part of our experience. So that informs you. That is guiding us consciously and unconsciously. And we're not wired. This is, again, psychologically, scientifically proven. We're not neurobiologically hardwired for the times that we're in, for the complexities that we're in, the confusion that we're in, and the tension that's here now. So this means then that these stresses we are feeling are not external stresses. They're amplified by our brains. They are embodied by our full systems and trying to adapt in ways they were not ever designed to. So we are being asked now and required to hold the paradox of this, to navigate this uncertainty, even as we long for certainty. and to embrace connection even when isolation feels safer, and to engage in compassion and vulnerability even when it feels risky to do it. We're more wired for that connection. So we're called on then to build new muscles, to build a new mindset around this, not just in our bodies and the embodiment of our principles, but in the ways that we relate, in the ways that we lead, in our ways of being. And I think those of us, people like us that are on a call again tonight, are the people that can do it, and to be determined. And we've heard over and over and over, that we're here tonight planting seeds, planting trees that we will never get to sit under the shade of, ever. And by golly, we will still plant. We'll still put the seeds down. And this requirement of us and the capacity to hold opposing truths at once, uncertainty and hope, change and constancy, or for me, it's like change and inertia, vulnerability and strength. And then to know that we are wired to choose this side or that side. And in doing that, we lose our creativity, we lose our power of imagination, of curiosity, and that we've got to keep our core strengthened, just as our body must got to have a strong core. We've got to have our own strong internal groundedness, and tend to that, which can compensate for then and balance out and circuit break some of those reactive, knee-jerk, more animalistic behaviors. And self-awareness, accountability, deep connections are part of strengthening that core. And that embracing our empathy for self, for others, and things I've named before, curiosity, kindness, these are no longer optional. These are no longer optional in the times we're in. These are not just clever liberal ideals, but essential elements for us to flourish in these complex times that we're in.
Yes. And I also recognize in me, sometimes I just think I just need like a block of time and space to just get all the bitter blame out of me. Like all the people that I warned, and look what you've done, And then, of course, I have never, ever responded well to blame myself. So why on earth would I do that to another? And it just wants out of me so badly. And I know that it's useless and it's not going to create connection.
No, it's not useless. It's required. We just don't have to do it at people. But that blaming and displacing blame, and I'm enraged, I'm outraged, I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, I'm hurt. The traumas of generations before us, the traumas of what the humans have bared, we still carry that. We still share that. And it absolutely has got to be expressed in some way. Let be, let go, written out, sung out, draw it out, paint it out, stomp it out, cuss it out, profanity, worksheet it out, journal it out. It's got to be excavated from our being, or we carry the burden of it all the way to our grave and then call this a life. Versus I've got to take more and more accountability for unburdening myself, unburdening that, including the expressing that blame. I just don't have to do it at people. And most people can't bear it. Just like you said, there's nobody wakes up and goes, oh, goody, I can't wait to be blamed today. So, which is a good reason not to blame others, because it makes them more animalistic too. Just like we get animalistic
Yeah.
when somebody blames
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
We don't
yeah.
respond very
But
well.
chances are I won't be able to transform it into what I want it to be, without really like head on, like finding a way, an
Processing.
outlet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Martha, it's we have another 35 minutes with Martha. I apologize for taking up all this time. I hope that you did find it somewhat inspiring and maybe it spoke to you. However, this is your chance to address Martha, and please do so. What a gift. Thank you, Martha. I love you.
Welcome for my part, honey. I love you too, honey. Mhm. So it's a place here. Anything, you're welcome to ask a question. You're welcome to disagree. You're welcome to bring a specific example, inquire, share experience, anything, Paul.
Tonight is the second time in 2 days that I heard the concept, the idea of planting a seed of a tree that I will never sit under. That's beautiful. That's profound.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And I'm still pondering G's questions. They were such good questions. Like, how do you do it, Martha? What do you do? And it's like, that's what I do. When these eyeballs open, it's like I look at what I put into my phone today, what I have said I would do today, and the allure is to go somewhere else. The allure is to read something. Do you hear somebody came across me and said, "Have you heard all about what happened?" And it's like there's this allure to go, "Tell me." And then it's like, "Wait a minute. I cannot do that. I cannot go into that arena and do what I committed to today. I cannot lounge over there in that, which drains my energy off faster than anything, and still function as highly as I want to keep my thinking as clear as it can be, and to be about what I can be here on the earth, not to waste my day. So I'm going to make all the contribution I can today. And many of you have heard me say it, at the end of our life, there'll be a grave for Martha. It's like, here lies Martha. She had issues. Here lies Martha. She was full of mad. She was just mad as could be. She's mad as an old wet hen. Here lies Martha. Here lies Martha. Boy, and she had dramas. Here's had Martha. She was righteous. Or here lies Martha. Instead of issues, here lies Martha. She had ideas. She had ideals. She believed it could change and be better and work toward it. Here lies Martha. Instead of having drama, she had determination.
Mm-hmm.
Like she moved forward with, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Here lies Martha. She could complain. It's like, here lies Martha. Like she looked at how she could contribute. How could I be used here? What could I do here that would bring forth my own gifts? And what am I going to look back on the day when I go to bed tonight and look back on my day? I'm going to look back on it and wish I had have done certain things and regret that I did certain things or didn't do certain things. And that informs me of where I was out of my own integrity. And not to self-hate and self-blame over that, but to allow that too. To say it's not to self-hate and self-blame. I'm immersed in self-compassion, a daily practice that's out there on the Facebook, the Instagram, and all the YouTube, all for free if you want to join in on that. Because that was 8 years ago. My dad died when I realized I don't know a thing about compassion. And now here, 8 years later, I'm in a immersion of self-compassion that includes things like, when my knee is hurting, I don't curse my knee and try to walk 2 more miles through an airport. That I pause and sit down and say, can you call a wheelchair for me to get me through this airport? Instead of forcing, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, this old inertia of this that's been handed down. And then self-hating, when I came home and the bird feeders are empty. And it's like, oh my God, the birds are giving me the side eye. And it's like, well, I wasn't here to feed them. And now I'm back. So now there's food. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do about that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is to recognize what I can do.
Well,
Stop being myself for what I can't do.
give us and say it again. That's all there ever is. What can I do?
Yeah.
What effect can I have? And I did a service over in a church on Sunday, and I had asked AI to give me a Martha Creek quote to use on Sunday. And it was powerful to read what it believes that I'm about. And it included for me that it's important for me to take a spiritual accountability and personal accountability for my own growth, my own healing, my own contributions. And the word that really hit me was my impact.
Yeah.
To take spiritual accountability and responsibility for the impact that I have.
And it's both ways. It's negative and positive. The impact that we have is both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that speaks, Reverend G, I think to your point too about how then are we going to be in community? Right. And it's like we're wired to be in tribe, in community and all that. And then we get too much into it and then we can't bear it anymore. And then the balance, which you spoke about, which is to say, I've got to be close. I got to be out there. I got to be with people. I got to be in service. And I personally have got to have times of solitude and times of silence, and both and I do better in service, and I do better in community, and I do better making contributions when I have taken heed to the self-care that I have to provide for what I need to keep myself more highly functional, clearer thinking.
Filling your own cup.
Yeah. Comments, questions? Anything you've heard tonight that moved you or struck you or you want to look into? Anything? You're welcome to disagree as well.
So David Brooks said something that got me thinking. And he said something like this, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, that our society has become way too individualistic. And we need to return more to a more of a community-based, to experience ourselves more within community, to find our way back. And he thinks that this is one of the reasons why we can't agree on just about anything. We can't even we have become so polarized that we can not find our way back to each other. And it got me thinking. On the one hand, I read somewhere that now 70% of the countries of the world are under some form of authoritarian regime, which is terrible, in my opinion, obviously. And many of those regimes have a much stronger understanding of community than here in the US we have. And if that is true, what he's saying, and yet we are so focused, how do we bring that into balance? If we so focus on fixing this one, right? And work on this one, how do we also live into community?
Well, I think the way we've been describing here, G, that it's a daily decision, and from not just daily, but moment to moment, interaction to interaction, personality to personality, a decision which can only be made if we're in the highest part of our brain, the brains that we got that animals didn't get, to say, how am I going to respond to this? What can I do here that could affect this? And Byron Katie used to say, masters look for an opening. They look for an opening. You can't make an opening, which was what I was describing earlier. Like, I've tried to make openings where I stand and beat my head against a brick wall and then wonder why my head's bleeding, then blame you for my head bleeding, versus looking for an opening and to keep with it, just to keep working toward justice, toward peace, for balance, even when there is no outcome guaranteed. That outcome is not guaranteed. And to keep working at it regardless, even knowing it's not guaranteed. Like, we may never see it in this lifetime. And I'll plant trees today, and I'll make choice today and stay as conscious as I can today to deepen compassion, to widen a circle of care, to bring a level of trust to somebody, to offer a space that is new, a different way of being in the world, and to carry both the weight of what is and the heaviness of that, the burdening of that, and the light of what can be.
Mhm.
To carry both the weight of what is, the reality of what is, the way it is, and the light of what can be. And that I've got to tend to that light to make sure that it stays in balance, that darkness and that weight, the burdening, the legacy burdens, the inertia of the old, the authoritarian rule, whatever, patriarchy, whatever, cannot take over. And it requires some tending to it. And in a time that it's in all times, and in these times too, that it's not easy. There's nothing about it easy.
Teresa Curry has her hand raised. Teresa, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I just want to express my gratitude for you making a space for this to happen, and also, of course, to Martha for sharing her experience, strength, hope, and wisdom, and her just being with us. I'm so grateful, and truly just sitting here thinking that grateful that we have opportunities to come together like this in safe places, and places to be authentic, to say, you know what, this is hard. This is hard right now. And I myself have been struggling. And my dad used to say, if you come within a frog's hair, well, I came within a frog's hair last week of firing off something that was in no way going to create greater good. And I had it all typed out, just like, ugh. And I'm just so grateful that I came to enough to go, let's take a pause here. Let's just take a pause, and see if you really want to do this. Because if I do this, am I not actually adding to the very same thing, what you've already shared, Martha, but to the very same thing that I'm railing against, if you want to call it that? Rather than the turnaround for me was what you've also discussed, Martha. But I thought, here's who do I want to be in this? And how do I want to be in this world? So rather than all that mess, I took myself off and stopped looking at things, step back away, take more time inside. And I think the other piece about that was, for myself anyway, is to not expect myself to be able to maintain any sort of sanity in this kind of environment.
Right, honey. That's a false expectation. But and then it breeds more shame in us, more guilt in us, more failure, what's wrong with us, incompetent. And we're more likely to abandon our own practices, our spiritual practices or something. Why bother? Which is the power of apathetic apathy. And as I'm preparing, I lead a group through an extraordinary leader immersion kind of group that starts up in October. And as I was writing the curriculum, one of the assignments I made was using this letting go process, which you can look it up, all of you, it's free. Letting Go, A Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. Letting Go, A Pathway to Surrender. And the exercise was to use this letting go process, which is to let these big emotions, let the despair, let the rage, let the whatever's in there have space. And to the degree that we can, it will actually dissipate. It actually does dissolve. It actually does pass through. And most of us won't ever tend to it long enough. And scientifically, this is all proven in his work, a medical doctor and a PhD. In most cases, it's minutes, sometimes even seconds, that it'll pass through. In minutes, most even extreme feelings will pass through. And one of the exercises, so some of y'all are already enrolled in the program, you can act surprised when you get that assignment. Paul's got holding of his book. The assignment is to use that meditatively, the letting go technique, the letting go process around apathy, because we're prone to it. When this gets heavier and heavier and big and burdensome and we can't see a way, and confusion, and then start to doubt that we have any impact, or start to doubt that I can bring about any change, or that I can be effective in any way. So I think it's critical, actually, and I'm not using that word flippantly, critical, essential, to bear some of this, and to let some of this, the tendency for apathy, have some space, so that we don't live there, that we don't let that take over and let that be our domain, and to take back our own authority, our own dominion, and to say that I'm prone to be apathetic. I'm prone to give up when I'm tired, I'm weary, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, and I got to express some of that. I got to give space to that humanness in me, and then dust myself off and go, as Paul said, to what can I do? What can I do? And to look back on my life at the end of this night and go, not so proud of that. And I had a moment, and I didn't pause, and I'm not going to self-hate over that. And I'm going to learn from that, and then see the next time I'm going around on the spiral, if there's another option for me there. And I'll do my best to go for that one. Sally, and then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sally Harkness has a question.
Hi. I feel emotional thinking about yesterday, and I was reminded after this event, there was a celebration of life in my community for a man, and I'm acquainted with him. We're not really good friends, but we were in some sports for a couple years together, so we were acquainted, and I got to know his wife a little bit, but she passed suddenly. And so they had a pitch-in dinner, and people get together, and it was, what evolved from it was his family. She had 3 children from a previous marriage when they were married 32 years ago. He had 3 children. They had never met. The children had never met before. And they were so brave to talk about that. It was amazing. And then I could feel that the people in the crowd were open and loving and compassionate to them. And then the gentleman whose wife died was saying his request for us, and his wife's name was to do something in kindness today and the next day in her honor. He said, I got to tell you something. He said, I was in Sam's Club. He had 5 huge sandwich platters, and a man behind him said, oh, are you having a party? He said, well, no, we're having a celebration of life because my wife died. And that man said to the checkout woman, "I'm paying for everything he's buying today." So he and his family that were there were obviously moved. Well, we had ended up having too many sandwiches. So several of us at the end, they were saying you could take things. We took large platters to our neighbors. And two that I took to were two single parents. And I mean, so the giving kept happening. So that man, I just felt like I was enveloped in a ball of love, of humanity. And when I went to bed last night, I reflected on the light of my day. And that's what I realized that I want to come from love. I want to be in love. And other things around that are chaotic can happen, but I could choose to be in love.
Powerful to witness, honey. God bless. And yes, 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 yes. And if you don't believe in God, life blessing it, life giving us every opportunity to say, where can I make a difference today? And then that's how helping is actually defined. And this took me decades, and I'm still wobbly with it. That actual helping is when the people we help actually get better, they actually improve, and they're more likely to turn around and help somebody else. That you will know it was actual helping when those are the factors of it. And I had a very different lens on helping. So it's wonderful to see it witnessed today, honey. Thank you, Sally. Glad you're here. Andrea?
Yeah, actually, it's been 2 years. 2 years ago, I worked at Dollar General as a cashier for 7 months. And at some point in time, of course, everybody's like, have a good day. So I just started to say to people, have a blessed day. And the first week or so, I had people just stop dead in their tracks and look at me and like, can you say that? And I said, well, I just did. And I find it fun because now 2 years later I can be in a completely different store and I hear have a blessed day all the time now. I don't know if I started it, but I like to think I did. um the other thing I wanted to say, when things get dark and I feel things are dark, I think about the fact that it doesn't take very much light to penetrate the dark. You go outside at night. Of course, here you can do it really well because there's not any street lights, but you know, you're in the dead of night and yet it's not dark. There are still stars you can see. You can even be in a dark room and there's light coming in somewhere. And that's always what I focus on is it gets pretty dark, but you know, so far I haven't been in a situation where where the light didn't penetrate somewhere. There's it takes a shitload of darkness to block out light. And that's what I realized and I focus on.
It's a great perspective, honey, and the fact that it's not possible.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. Even if it looks that way, there's light. Yep. Carol?
I started to put my hand up twice, but I figured I better. I first want to say I'd never heard the story about your dad, and I've around you a lot of things, so uh, I figured that was for me because I have moved from retiring as a minister after quite a long time to being a caregiver for my husband, pretty much. And I think there's a bit of that. Here's your water and drink more, and it's time to get up and exercise. And I'm sorry your back hurts, but you've got to stand up. he's going to be very grateful that I was here. Often he resents my going to a Zoom thing, but I think he'll be grateful because I have I have some consideration to do here. And and I liked your definition of helping too, helpful for me. Yes, there is in terms of my interaction there. There are some things that are very much better. And it gives me a great deal of pause because I don't believe that he's going to think that anything I do has been sharing the love and light as much as Sally talked about for him to go ahead and do it with another. And so I'm grateful to be here. Um, oh, they said, stop me. I was going to say the quote I've been working with the last few days is this Ramana Maharshi, who says, your greatest gift you can give to the world, or greatest service you can be to the world is your own self-realization. And all of this work that you're doing and these things that you've introduced me to, all of these things have been exceedingly helpful. The Hawkins and the IFS and now if I'm triggered by anything. This is my new practice, not my what happens all the time. Uh, my I am working to turn in and say what something's triggering me. It's not that they're doing this or he's doing that or oh my God, what the hell on Tylenol. It's wait a minute, why am I triggered? What is in me early on that this is, the pattern of feeling is repeated, not from words, but what do I feel? And I think that's what Hawkins is saying too on that, letting go. What do I feel? So thank you very much for the light that you shined. That I had the very good fortune to be in the way of the reflection.
You're welcome, Carol. It's mutual. Mutual. Thank you.
Go ahead, Diane.
Well, I want to join all the appreciation for G, for you and this opportunity, and Martha for you. And I was fortunate to be in the experience this weekend here in Cincinnati with Martha, with the Journey Within, and the difference in the people visibly. So if just the visible difference in 40 people after sitting together, working through whatever they work through, listening to you, having their own experiences in a short period of time, the physical difference, I'm imagining what their internal worlds are like. Because even for me, having done that many, many times with you, I still have a profound shift from taking that journey and giving that to myself, even in the name of being in service to others there. It's um it's an opportunity and an honor. And the piece of it that I was thinking about was earlier in this conversation. And I think you were, sharing, like, get it out however we can get it out, and having the opportunity to do some safe anger work and just verbally get whatever needed to come out in a 5-minute period of time. Maybe it felt like maybe 5-6 minutes or whatever it was. That in and of itself has changed my being. All the things that it feels like, and I should, that I can't say at work, I can't say to other people. I it's all the things that are held back in the name of my profession or my, not whatevering, got to have a life and be out there and, move that energy from whatever physical effect it was having on me, losing my voice, doing all this. So, I just want to again thank you because it's you know, doing something, even if, oh my God, I've done that 20 times before. It's like, well, obviously it's worked and do it again. And it's like a reminder to go back to our tool belts and to go, do the things that we know maybe have worked for us or try something different that never felt brave enough to do before or try before. And so I just want to, thank you because you give lots of opportunities like that for us to expand and open up and or revisit, review, learn, and I'm grateful because I just think of all the ripples from that then too. Like you're right, I can only do something here. So if I'm doing it here, then I think about in where I live, where I work, all the things. If I can show up just a little more of the person I want to be, that's a successful day. So thank you again.
You're welcome, honey. And God bless it, honey. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we are coming to an end. My dogs, I hope you can't hear them very much, but they decided, and one of them is deaf, and I can't control him. But they decided they needed to play with.
I think
And
that G, stop there, honey. That's your answer to how you're going to handle everything. The same way you handle that dog.
that's
He's deaf and I can't control him.
yes.
They're
Yes.
deaf,
And the world.
they're deaf and I can't control them. They're deaf and I
Yes. So, okay. Look, there she is. You can't see her, of course, because I have this. Leave me alone, baby. So the culture that I come from the old country, is very community centered, very family centered, but unhealthy. So I experienced it as suffocating. I experienced it as um, suffocating is the best way. Like I could not be my authentic self. And then I came to this country where obviously this is a very individualistic community, where then I found so much freedom to express myself, to learn myself, to be my authentic self. And that was just wonderful. And I am thinking that if we bring our authentic selves to recreate community, a strong community, it would be just a much better improved version of the one that I initially come from, which was the unhealthy one. But with awareness, we can create a community that is, just liberating and powerful and nurturing and healing with the possibility of healing, and also the shadow side, which I believe will always be with us. So thank you, Martha, and thank you all for joining.
marthacreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.